They replaced me at 6:47 a.m. with a sterile automated message that appeared on my phone while I was still in bed. Their mistake wasn't the termination itself. It was forgetting who invented the neural compression algorithm that powered their entire data empire. My name is Allison Garrison. I am 39 years old, and on a Thursday morning that smelled of fresh rain and brewing coffee, my career at Horizon Solutions was obliterated by a notification that didn't even warrant a human voice. The message arrived as I was reaching for my phone to silence the alarm. A banner notification, cold and impersonal. Sender: HR Automation System. Subject: Employment Status Update. Immediate action required. For several heartbeats, I stared at the glowing rectangle in my hand. The world seemed to pause. Outside my bedroom window, I could hear the rhythmic patter of rain against glass, the distant hum of morning traffic, the neighbor's dog barking at something unseen. Everything felt aggressively normal, which made the notification feel like a crack in reality itself. I opened the message. The text was brief, surgically composed to minimize legal exposure. It spoke of organizational restructuring, of strategic realignment for fiscal optimization, of the company's appreciation for my valued contributions over the years. Then, in the fourth paragraph, it named my replacement as lead architect of the Helix compression project. Jordan Whitfield. The name hung there on my screen like a declaration of war. Jordan, the VP of Strategic Partnerships, whose most significant technical achievement was learning how to export data from Excel into PowerPoint without corrupting the formatting. Jordan, who had joined Horizon 18 months ago with a background in corporate sales and a talent for speaking confidently about technologies she fundamentally misunderstood. I had built Helix from absolutely nothing. The core algorithm had been born in my apartment, developed over 9 months of late nights and obsessive iteration, long before Horizon Solutions even knew my name existed. The neural compression system could reduce data storage requirements by 83% while maintaining perfect fidelity. It was computational poetry, elegant and revolutionary. And now Jordan Whitfield was going to run it. The notification offered no transition timeline, no handover protocol, no meeting invitation to discuss the change. It was a clean amputation performed while I slept. Curiosity, sharp and cold, drove my next actions. I opened the Horizon employee portal on my phone. I attempted to access my project folders. The system returned an error message in red text. Access denied, insufficient permissions. I navigated to my employee profile. My title was still listed as Senior Director, Neural Systems Architecture. But next to it, a new designation had materialized. Consultant Status Limited Access. In the span of minutes, I had been transformed from architect to ghost. A visitor in the structure I had engineered from pure mathematics and determination. I didn't feel anger yet. That would come later. What I felt was a crystalline clarity, a calm recognition of the profound error they had just committed. I rose from bed and walked to my home office. The room was small, organized with the precision of someone who thinks in systems and structures. My personal workstation sat against the window, its 3 monitors dark and waiting. I didn't turn on the Horizon VPN. I had no interest in their network anymore. Instead, I opened my personal encrypted drive, the one that existed entirely separate from corporate infrastructure. Inside was a folder I had created 22 months ago, labeled simply, Foundation Documents. I clicked it open. The first file was a PDF stamped with the official seal of the United States Patent and Trademark Office. The filing date was June 3, 2 years prior. The title read, Neural Adaptive Compression System with Predictive Layering, Provisional Patent Application. The listed inventor, Allison Garrison. Filing entity, Garrison Technologies LLC. I had filed this patent 4 months before Horizon Solutions ever contacted me about a position. The intellectual property was mine before I ever walked through their glass doors, before I ever signed their employment contract. But that was only the first layer of my fortress. I opened the second document, a 40-page employment agreement with Horizon. Clipped to the final pages was a 3-page addendum I had negotiated personally, the one Jordan had apparently never bothered to read. The heading was clear. Intellectual Property Licensing Agreement Limited Field Use. My eyes found the critical language in Section 4, subsection C. I had spent 6 weeks refining this clause with my own attorney before signing anything. The text was precise. In the event the inventor is removed from operational leadership of the licensed project, or if attribution of inventorship is publicly stripped or materially diminished without mutual written agreement and a transition period of no less than 45 days, the exclusive license granted to Horizon Solutions shall immediately convert to a non-exclusive, revocable license. The inventor shall retain the right to cure this breach within a 72-hour window by restoring the inventor's leadership position and full public attribution. Failure to cure will result in immediate and permanent termination of all licensing rights. I read it twice, feeling the weight of each carefully chosen word. At the bottom of the page were two signatures, mine in black ink, and the bold, confident signature of Lawrence Carrington, Horizon's founder and former CEO, the man who had understood that to acquire brilliance, you must respect brilliance. He had signed it with his distinctive red pen, a slash of color that validated my terms. A promise that my invention would remain mine. Lawrence had retired 8 months ago. The new executive team, led by interim CEO Raymond Fletcher, had no memory of these negotiations. They saw only assets on a balance sheet, not the legal architecture that protected those assets. I took my phone and photographed the critical section, capturing the clause and Lawrence's red signature. The image was sharp, undeniable. I saved it to an encrypted cloud folder accessible only by me. I leaned back in my chair. The rain had intensified outside, drumming against the roof with growing urgency. Inside I felt perfectly still. They thought they were simply reorganizing management. They believed the asset was the code sitting on their servers, the brand name they were so eager to commercialize, the market opportunity they wanted Jordan to exploit. They had forgotten that Helix doesn't belong to Horizon Solutions. Helix belongs to Garrison Technologies LLC. And I am Garrison Technologies LLC. This fortress I had constructed, this legal mechanism designed to protect my life's work, wasn't built in a moment of paranoia. It was engineered over years of careful observation and cold calculation. It began long before Horizon knew I existed. The origin point was my spare bedroom in Seattle, where I had spent 11 months consumed by a problem that had obsessed me since my doctoral work in computational mathematics. Data storage was becoming humanity's most expensive infrastructure challenge. Every year the digital universe doubled in size and compression algorithms had hit a mathematical wall. I wanted to shatter that wall. I worked in isolation, funding myself through consulting projects, living on minimal expenses. The breakthrough came at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. I had been exploring neural network architectures that could predict data patterns and compress accordingly, adapting in real time to the specific characteristics of each data stream. When the first successful test completed, when I saw the compression ratio hit 83% with zero loss, I didn't celebrate. I documented everything. I saved every iteration, every test result, every line of developmental code. And then, before I told anyone, before I posted about it on any platform, I filed a provisional patent application. That timestamp from the USPTO was the first brick in my defensive wall. It established, in the eyes of federal law, that this invention was mine on June 3rd, before any corporation could claim otherwise. When Horizon came calling 6 months later, they came with intensity. Lawrence Carrington himself reached out, having heard through academic networks about my work. He was that rare breed of CEO who actually understood the technology his company built. He saw what Helix represented. Not an incremental improvement but a paradigm shift that could redefine data infrastructure globally. He also saw me as the single point of origin, the irreplaceable source of the innovation. The negotiation was delicate. They offered an impressive salary, equity that would vest over 4 years, a senior director title. I listened politely. When they finished, I presented my counter-proposal. I'm not interested in a standard employment arrangement, I told Lawrence during our third meeting. Garrison Technologies LLC will license Helix to Horizon. Not sell it. License it. Their legal team resisted immediately. They wanted full intellectual property assignment, complete ownership with no strings attached. They wanted to own Helix the way you own a piece of furniture. That option doesn't exist, I replied calmly. What does exist is an exclusive license with defined parameters. I laid out my terms. A field of use restriction. They could deploy Helix for enterprise data storage and cloud infrastructure. Any other application, consumer products, military systems, medical devices, remained the sole property of Garrison Technologies LLC. They were getting the key to one door. I was keeping the keys to every other door in the building. Lawrence, to his credit, understood the logic. "She's not giving us the factory," he told his resistant CFO. "She's giving us the most profitable assembly line in it. For what we're paying, it's still the opportunity of a generation." Then I introduced the mechanism that would save me 2 years later. "There's one additional condition," I said. "Non-negotiable." I explained my reversion clause. I had watched too many inventors get pushed aside once corporations decided they had extracted the core value. The people who created the innovation were often the first casualties once the machine shifted to pure commercialization. My clause was insurance against that uniquely brutal corporate pattern. If they removed me from leadership without notice, or if they stripped my name from the project publicly, their exclusive license would detonate. It would revert to non-exclusive status, giving me the right to license Helix to anyone else. And if they didn't restore my position within 72 hours, their license would terminate completely. "It's draconian," their general counsel complained. "It's alignment," I countered. "It ensures you don't lose access to the person who understands this technology at the molecular level. What's the concern? As long as you treat the inventor with basic professional respect, it's just text on paper." Lawrence saw the wisdom. He wanted long-term security. This was my price for it. To cement everything, I filed a UCC-1 financing statement. The mechanism is typically used by lenders to establish a secured interest in assets. In this case, the asset was the Helix patent. The debtor was Horizon Solutions. The creditor was Garrison Technologies LLC. If they defaulted on the terms of our agreement by removing me improperly, my claim to the intellectual property would legally supersede the claims of their investors, their creditors, their board of directors. I wasn't just licensing them technology. I was holding it as collateral against their future behavior. Throughout these negotiations, Jordan Whitfield was already at Horizon, brought in as VP of Strategic Partnerships. She sat in several of the peripheral meetings, projecting restless impatience. When the lawyers discussed the specifics of the IP addendum, her attention would drift. She would check her phone, tap her pen against the table, radiate boredom. Once, during a discussion of the UCC-1 filing structure, she actually interrupted. "Can we fast-forward through the legal minutiae?" she asked with a practiced smile. "I'd really like to circle back to the commercialization roadmap." She was allergic to details. Anything that couldn't be reduced to a 3-bullet summary on a slide was beneath her attention. She never understood that the details were the entire game. Once the agreement was executed, Lawrence's red signature bold on the final page, I began the last phase of preparation. I compiled every piece of documentation, every email, every draft of the contract, every message from their legal team acknowledging the terms. I included one particularly crucial email from their general counsel confirming, per the executed agreement, Horizon Solutions commits to crediting Allison Garrison as lead inventor and chief architect for the Helix neural compression system in all technical documentation, press materials, and partner communications. I loaded everything onto a military-grade encrypted external drive. Then I ran the entire package through a digital notarization service, creating a cryptographic timestamp for every document. This created an immutable, legally defensible record. This was my vault. It lived in a fireproof safe in my home, completely isolated from Horizon's network, immune to their IT department, their server purges, their revisionist narratives. It was my copy of the truth. I remember my last conversation with Lawrence before he retired. He shook my hand in his office, surrounded by the memorabilia of a long career. "You fought hard for credit, Allison," he said. "I respect that." I looked him in the eye. "I didn't fight for credit, Lawrence. I fought to preserve truth. Credit is what other people give you. Truth is what you protect yourself." Now, sitting in my home office with rain streaming down the windows, I could hear the echo of that conversation. Jordan was sending messages about optimizing market positioning. Raymond Fletcher, the interim CEO, would probably send some hollow text about maintaining relationships. They were living in a world of convenient fictions. They had forgotten that their right to even use the name Helix was built on a foundation of hard legal reality. And they had just taken a sledgehammer to that foundation. The first public strike landed at 7:23 a.m. It was a company-wide announcement from Jordan, sent to all 700 Horizon employees. The subject line was triumphant. Helix Initiative, new leadership, new direction. My name was absent from the entire document. The email was a masterclass in corporate revisionism. It announced Jordan as the new executive director of the Helix Initiative, effective immediately. It spoke about exciting new partnerships, about scaling the technology globally, about Horizon's vision for the future of data infrastructure. It read like I had never existed. I downloaded the email, saved it as a PDF. This was breach number 1. At 7:31 a.m., a second assault arrived. An email from Horizon's Public Relations Department, distributed to a limited list of senior staff. I was apparently still on that list, an oversight they would soon correct. The attachment was a draft press release scheduled for publication that afternoon. The headline read, Horizon Solutions unveils proprietary Helix compression technology. The body copy was even more egregious. It described Helix as developed entirely in-house by Horizon's dedicated engineering teams over 3 years of intensive research and development. It was a complete fabrication designed to be repeated by journalists until it calcified into accepted history. They weren't just erasing me. They were attempting to erase Garrison Technologies LLC from existence, rewriting the origin story to eliminate any inconvenient truths. I saved the draft press release. Breach number 2. The third violation was technical and silent. A notification from the company's code repository system appeared in my personal email. Subject: Repository access modification. The automated log was brutally clear. Permission change repository. Helix_owner updated from A. Garrison to J. Whitfield by system administrator. In the digital realm where the actual work lived, my name had been chiseled off and replaced. They had seized control of the codebase, but their control was illusory. The original blueprints, the notarized records, the time-stamped proof of invention, all of it was secure in my vault, miles beyond their reach. Still, it was breach number 3. 3 violations in less than an hour. They were efficient in their destruction. Then came the overreach that transformed their coup into a fatal strategic blunder. At 8:02 a.m., an email arrived from Horizon's legal department. Subject: Separation Agreement and General Release. The attached PDF was presented as a generous severance package. 6 months of salary, continued health benefits, a neutral reference. But buried on page 9 in subsection D was the poison pill. The language was dense, deliberately obscure, but its meaning was unmistakable. Employee hereby waives all claims of moral rights, authorship rights, and inventor rights related to any work product, and affirms that all intellectual property developed during tenure was work for hire, superseding any prior agreements, written or verbal. I read it 3 times. They weren't just firing me. They were trying to trick me into legally validating their theft after the fact. This document was their confession. It proved they knew their claim was fragile, and this was their clumsy attempt to shore it up retroactively by getting me to sign away the foundations of my legal fortress. I didn't respond to their legal department. Instead, I opened a new email from my Horizon account. I addressed it to my personal encrypted email address. Subject: Evidence Archive, Horizon Breach Documentation. I attached 2 files. The poisonous separation agreement they had just sent, and the photograph I had taken earlier. The image of my reversion clause with Lawrence's red signature. I pressed send. The email vanished, a perfect digital package containing their crime and my weapon, now safely stored outside their walls. The universe has impeccable timing. At precisely 8:19 a.m., a new email arrived from an analyst at Crescent Investment Partners, the private equity firm that was in final negotiations for a $90 million licensing deal with Horizon. The message was cheerfully oblivious to the chaos unfolding. Good morning, Allison. Looking forward to our final due diligence call scheduled for tomorrow. Before we proceed with the wire transfer for the initial $90 million tranche, our legal team requires confirmation of the registered patent holder for USPTO application 64 to 227,834. Could you please provide the relevant documentation? I stared at the email, feeling a slow, cold smile spread across my face. They had just handed me a lit match and pointed me toward their carefully stacked powder kegs. Before I could formulate my next move, my phone buzzed with an incoming message. It was from Jordan, sent via the company's messaging platform. Allison, it read, dispensing with any pretense of courtesy. I see you're still on the Crescent call tomorrow. That's fine. I'll be leading it now, but I need you to join as technical support. Keep your camera off. Don't speak unless I specifically direct a question to you. I'll introduce you as an internal technical advisor. It's critical we maintain message discipline. The sheer audacity was breathtaking. She had publicly erased my name, orchestrated the theft of my work, and now wanted me to participate as an anonymous voice in a box while she secured funding for her new empire. She wanted me to be a puppet in my own execution. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I considered multiple responses, long explanations of her catastrophic error. But the most powerful move was the simplest. I typed one word, no. I pressed send. The word sat in the chat window between us, stark and absolute. I could feel her shock radiating through the screen. Jordan Whitfield was not accustomed to hearing that word. While she was typing her reply, I clicked the attachment icon and uploaded the photograph, the image of my reversion clause and Lawrence's red signature. I sent it without comment. The image populated in our chat. A black and white contract with a slash of red ink. A prophecy she had never bothered to read. In that moment, the entire dynamic shifted. Defense was over. The counterattack was beginning. I closed the messaging app. I opened a blank document. My hands were steady, my mind perfectly clear. At the top of the page, I typed, Official Notice of License Reversion and Cure Period Activation. I was no longer Allison Garrison, terminated employee. I was Garrison Technologies LLC, secured creditor, and I was formally notifying Horizon Solutions of their default. The letter took 40 minutes to compose. It was 2 pages of precise, unforgiving legal language. It cited specific agreements, specific breaches, and specific consequences. This was not a complaint. It was a declaration of legal fact. When I finished, I opened my Garrison Technologies business email, separate from any Horizon system. I composed a new message. The recipient list was carefully curated for maximum impact. General Counsel, Horizon Solutions. Raymond Fletcher, Interim CO. Jordan Whitfield, VP Strategic Partnerships. CC. Director of Legal, Crescent Investment Partners. Senior Partner, Peak Ventures. Managing Director, Cornerstone Capital Group. I wasn't just informing the company of their breach. I was informing their entire $320 million pipeline. The body of the email was surgically brief. To all concerned parties, please find attached the formal notice regarding the immediate reversion of licensing status for the Helix Neural Compression System intellectual property. All exclusivity rights are hereby suspended per the governing IP agreement. The 72-hour cure period is now in effect. I attached the PDF. I pressed send. The first domino fell. Next, I opened my web browser and navigated to the Secretary of State's business portal. I logged into my Garrison Technologies account and located the existing UCC1 filing against Horizon Solutions. I clicked File Amendment. In the text field, I typed UCC3 Amendment Acknowledgement of Default. The debtor, Horizon Solutions, has triggered default conditions as outlined in the governing IP licensing agreement dated November 12. Breach consists of unauthorized removal of inventor from leadership position and public stripping of attribution. Secured party, Garrison Technologies LLC, hereby asserts full security interest in the specified collateral. U.S. Provisional Patent Application 64 to 227,834 and all derivative works. I submitted the form. A public, permanent record of their default was now attached to the Helix patent. Any investor conducting due diligence would see a massive red flag. Next, I drafted notices to Horizon's 3 critical infrastructure vendors: Stratosphere Cloud Services, Dataflow Pipeline Management, and Secure Vault Storage. These companies were the foundation upon which Helix operated. My notices were calibrated not to demand cessation of services that could create its own legal complications, but to inject paralyzing uncertainty. This notice informs you that the intellectual property known as Helix Neural Compression System, currently operating on your platforms under contract with Horizon Solutions, is subject to an active ownership dispute due to contractual default. To mitigate potential secondary infringement liability, we strongly recommend placing an immediate hold on any planned integrations, deployments, or platform expansions related to Helix until licensing status is clarified. I was throwing sand into their operational gears. These notices would trigger immediate legal reviews at all three vendors, flooding Horizon's technical leadership with urgent calls from critical partners. Chaos was the objective. Next, I logged into the USPTO's assignment recordation system and prepared a formal recording of my security interest. This would attach my UCC lien directly to the patent's federal record. From this moment forward, anyone searching the Helix patent on the official USPTO database would see Garrison Technologies LLC listed as a secured party with an active interest. It was a permanent stain on Horizon's claim of ownership. I created a new calendar event. Time, 2 p.m. today. Subject, urgent legal briefing, material change to Helix IP status. Attendees, full team from Crescent Investment Partners. I added a new group of participants, the senior partners at Whitmore and Associates, my notoriously aggressive intellectual property law firm. I sent the invitation. The message was clear. This was no longer a business update. This was a formal legal briefing. I opened another document and began compiling a statement of facts. Not an argument or a narrative. A timeline. A dispassionate, chronological account supported by exhibits. Exhibit A. Automated termination notice, 6:47 a.m. employment status update. Exhibit B. Company-wide announcement from Jordan Whitfield, 7:23 a.m. Note complete omission of inventor's name. Exhibit C. Draft press release from PR department, 7:31 a.m. Note false claims of in-house development. Exhibit D. Code repository access change, logged at 7:35 a.m. Inventor removed as owner. Exhibit E. Separation agreement from legal department, 8:02 a.m. Attempt to secure retroactive waiver of IP rights. The list was methodical, factual, irrefutable. This would be my opening statement. I prepared 3 additional actions simultaneously. First, I drafted a DMCA takedown notice ready to fire at Horizon's web hosting service the moment their fraudulent press release went live. Second, I opened the term sheet for the $90 million Crescent deal and performed a find and replace. Horizon Solutions became Garrison Technologies LLC. The structure was sound. Only the licensor needed to change. I saved it as crescent_draft.pdf and placed it in a folder labeled Alternative Licensing Options. Third, I opened a countdown timer on my desktop. 72 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. The official timestamp on my delivered notice was 8:47 a.m. The clock started ticking. Every passing second was another molecule of leverage, another turn of the screw. My desk had transformed into a command center. The plan was in motion, every action documented and legally fortified. The first counterattack came exactly as predicted, not from lawyers but from the person with the most to lose. At 9:03 a.m. my personal cell phone rang. The screen displayed Jordan's name. I let it ring through to voicemail, then watched as text messages began flooding in. Allison, what are you doing? You can't just send that kind of message to our partners. Call me immediately. When I didn't respond, her tone shifted. You're actively sabotaging this company. Our company. I picked up my phone. I didn't call her. I replied with a single sentence. Your company is in violation of a contract signed by your predecessor. Her response was immediate. That's absurd and you know it. Legal is handling this. It was a bluff. Horizon's legal department was 3 in-house attorneys who specialized in contracts and compliance. They were about to walk into a minefield they didn't know existed. Their official response arrived at 9:47 a.m. An email from William Crowley, their general counsel, addressed to me and copying Raymond Fletcher and Jordan. It was a perfect specimen of corporate legal intimidation, arrogant, dismissive, and completely wrong. Ms. Garrison, it began. We have received your baseless and frivolous notice. Let me be unequivocally clear. All work product and intellectual property developed by an employee during their tenure is considered work for hire under both company policy and established law. The Helix system is the sole and exclusive property of Horizon Solutions. We demand immediate retraction of your erroneous communications to our partners, or Horizon will pursue all available legal remedies for tortious interference and damages. They were firing cannons while standing on a trapdoor. I clicked reply all. I attached one file, the PDF of my provisional patent application, complete with its official USPTO timestamp. My reply was shorter than his threat. Mr. Crowley, attached for your review is the provisional patent application for Helix, filed with the USPTO on June 3, 2 years ago. My employment with Horizon commenced on October 15. That is a difference of 134 days. The work was not for hire. It was licensed under terms you have in your possession. Please advise. The silence that followed was profound. For 38 minutes, nothing. They were scrambling. I could picture William Crowley pulling my employment file, reading the IP addendum for the first time, the one Jordan had dismissed as tedious legal noise. Their second attempt was weaker, a desperate legal Hail Mary. At 10:25 a.m. a new email from Crowley. Even if we were to entertain your theory of prior invention, the Shopwright doctrine would clearly apply. You utilized company resources and equipment to further develop Helix. Therefore, Horizon retains an irrevocable royalty-free license in perpetuity. It was a decent argument if I hadn't anticipated it 2 years ago. I replied immediately, pasting language directly from the contract. Per the executed IP agreement, Section 2, Paragraph A, this field of use licensing arrangement is explicitly intended by all parties to supersede any and all claims of Shopwright or any other implied license that might otherwise be inferred under common law. Your predecessor specifically waived the right you're now attempting to claim. The terms are unambiguous. This time the silence was punctuated by a flash of incompetence from Jordan. In the public Helix team channel, a junior marketing coordinator posted a confused question. Hi Jordan, I'm updating the data room for tomorrow's Crescent call. The technical architecture documents still list A. Garrison as lead inventor. Should I leave that? Jordan's reply was a burst of pure, unthinking frustration, visible to the entire channel. Just remove Allison's name from everything. I need clean, unified messaging for launch. Erase it now. I took a screenshot. It was a written confession time-stamped, of the exact breach that triggered the reversion clause. She had just handed me a smoking gun. A moment later, a single emoji appeared in response from the CTO, the zipper-mouth face. Jordan must have realized her error. Her message vanished a second later, replaced by gray text. This message was deleted. Too late. I took another screenshot showing the deletion log and the CTO's silent, damning commentary. The 2 p.m. video call began with a tableau of grim faces on Horizon's side. Jordan looked pale and rigid. William Crowley was shuffling papers nervously off camera. Raymond Fletcher looked like he'd been in a car accident. On my side sat Catherine Whitmore, a razor-sharp litigator whose calm, predatory smile was worth every cent of her extraordinary hourly rate. The Crescent investment team watched with expressions mixing curiosity and deep concern. Catherine began. She didn't make accusations. She simply read from my statement of facts, a dispassionate chronological account from the 6:47 a.m. termination through Jordan's deleted message. When she finished, heavy silence filled the virtual room. The lead partner from Crescent, a man named Douglas Hampton, unmuted. He ignored Catherine and me entirely, speaking directly to Raymond Fletcher. Mr. Fletcher, putting aside the contractual dispute for a moment, I have a simple due diligence question. Who is listed as inventor and original applicant on the USPTO filing for this technology? The question was a precision rifle shot. On screen I watched the Horizon team. Fletcher looked at Crowley. Crowley looked at Jordan. Jordan stared at her hands. No one spoke. The silence stretched. 10 seconds. 20. 30. At 47 seconds, the silence had provided a louder answer than words ever could. I unmuted my microphone. I can answer that, Mr. Hampton. The applicant of record for USPTO Provisional Patent Application 64 to 227,834 is Garrison Technologies LLC. The secured party of record for UCC filing 2024 to 7743 is also Garrison Technologies LLC. William Crowley finally spoke, his voice strained. This is clearly a complex situation requiring further review. Horizon is prepared to issue a formal cure statement within 10 business days. I cut him off. Mr. Crowley, if you refer to Section 4, subsection C of the executed agreement, the document you claimed this morning was irrelevant. You'll find the cure period is explicitly defined as no more than 72 hours from notification. Your legal department received that notification at 8:47 a.m. I let that land. I could see blood draining from their faces as realization crystallized. This is not an open negotiation, I continued, leaning toward my camera. This is a cure period. You do not have 10 days. You have 61 hours and 14 minutes before your license to use my technology is permanently and irrevocably terminated. The digital conference room felt like a courtroom. Catherine Whitmore pulled up a document on her screen share. For the record, she said, I'm now displaying the signature page of the IP licensing agreement executed on November 12th. You'll note the signatures of Allison Garrison and Lawrence Carrington, then CEO of Horizon Solutions. Mr. Carrington's distinctive red ink is clearly visible. Douglas Hampton from Crescent leaned forward. Ms. Garrison, if this cure period expires without resolution, what is the status of the technology? Per Section 4, subsection D, I answered, failure to cure results in immediate and permanent termination of all licensing rights held by Horizon Solutions. The technology reverts entirely to Garrison Technologies LLC, free to license to any party we choose. I paused deliberately. I should mention that I've already received preliminary interest from other parties, should the current licensing arrangement fail. It was a calculated bluff with enough truth to make it credible. I had been approached by competitors over the years. I'd always declined. But they didn't need to know that. Hampton's expression hardened. He looked at Raymond Fletcher with cold finality. Mr. Fletcher, effective immediately, Crescent Investment Partners is placing an indefinite hold on the $90 million tranche scheduled for tomorrow. All capital deployment is suspended pending complete resolution of this intellectual property ownership issue. Do not contact us. We will be in touch. Before anyone from Horizon could respond, Hampton and his two associates vanished from the call, leaving gaping black squares on the screen. The remaining parties sat in stunned silence. Fletcher looked nauseated. Jordan was staring as if she couldn't comprehend what had just happened. I let the silence sit. Then I delivered the final statement, not for them but for the record. For the minutes of this meeting, let it be noted that Garrison Technologies LLC stands ready to engage in good faith licensing discussions to ensure continued development of the Helix neural compression system, as soon as the current licensing uncertainties are resolved to our satisfaction. Catherine and I clicked leave meeting simultaneously, plunging Horizon's leadership into a silent virtual room to contemplate the ruins of their morning. I didn't linger in the aftermath. I stood from my desk and began the physical process of reclamation. I walked to my bookshelf and pulled my personal reference books, my annotated copy of Nuth, my worn edition of Introduction to Algorithms, and placed them in my bag. Let them keep the desk and the corporate laptop. I was taking the knowledge. The sound of rapid footsteps